Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Syntax Sorcerer, where I teach you all the tips and tricks of different coding languages. And obviously, we're still continuing with Lesson 32, Exception Handling for C#. So, for my new beginner coders, my new beginner programmers, what is exception handling? So, essentially, exceptions are unexpected conditions or possible errors that occur during the execution of the program. So what does it mean by that? So let's say I have some sort of user input, right? And I need them to give me a number 1 through 10. How the program then needs to be able to say, hey, give me that number, right? What's going to happen if the user inputs 11, right? It should give back an error. It should say, hey, that's not falling within the parameters of what happens. So if we don't have exception handling, the program, the computer is just going to take that and it's going to say, okay, this is the thing because nobody told me anything else. And it could cause all sorts of other problems far further down the line. If I need a number 1 through 10 and I'm doing top of my head, let's say we need it in a very exact number, 1 through 10 for calculating a projectile, right? Like when a ship flies off into space, when a rocket flies off into space, if you're off by even a degree over hundreds of miles, that degree becomes 30 degrees and then 60 degrees, and then you completely miss your target. Now I know that's kind of a weird, like, this is 1 through 10, that doesn't make sense, but we're just using a low number just to give the idea. Right? Should kind of make sense. And it's that can be the same thing for like if I need user input name, right? And we want them to give us strings, and let's say they put in like a number, random number. Now it's technically going to store those not as numbers but as strings, and again that can be like kind of a problem, but that one's not as big as like when you need a double or an integer or something like that. It's not nearly as big of a problem, but there is a way to set up a, like, these are numbers, I need an actual name. And we can go over some of that at a different time. That's a little bit more excessive, like saying like you can't put that in. Like, you ever gone to a website and you try to put in your name and maybe you put like a period, like for like your middle initial, and it's like, hey, no symbols in here. That's kind of a similar thing where it's like, hey, symbols and numbers are not accepted, right? And you can do some sort of like catch block, or you can do an if or something where it says something similar to, if this is pseudo code, so if symbols / numbers, then error catch, right? Exception handling, whatever you want to call it. It's just an error catcher. Okay, so it's very straightforward. But besides that, it stops issues that would be from a invalid user input. Things like dividing by 0, right? Bad. File not found. Whenever you get a 404 on a website, that's similar things. Exception handling is just the process of like responding to an occurrence of exceptions in some controlled manner. So this essentially is very crucial part of our lesson, because you need error-tolerant applications. Using exception handling, you can ensure that your program handles errors really well and can continue executing the program without dividing by 0 and running an infinite loop. So, and running an infinite loop will make PC go boom. Not good. So, yeah. And there's some common exception types we can go over, but how about we just jump into the code right now, and we just kind of go over everything like we always do afterwards. So, I'm going to start with a... Do I need to... No, I don't. I'm not going to write a outside method this time. Let's just... Yeah, we're just going to do... Gosh, I have something written, but I don't like it anymore. Let's do a try. I'm going to do a try catch. What are you erroring me for? Expected a catch. Oh, because I'm not done yet. Yeah, okay, that's fine. So... give it some space. Jesus. And then with that, we're going to do code to cause exception. No, code that may cause exception. Right? So let's make an int array. And let's call it numbers. And we're going to fill it with, oops, equals. And then we're just going to fill it with 1, 2, 3, yeah, we'll just do 3. Like, there's no reason to make it massive, right? Okay, and then we're gonna do a console.writeLine, and we'll say number, and then 5, right? So what's this gonna do? You're saying this will cause, and this is what it's called, index out, well, it's going to be all one word usually, of range exception. So you're trying to essentially, like, you're telling it, say, hey, print out position number 5, and it's like that doesn't exist. We have 0, 1, 2, which is 1, 2, and 3. That position doesn't exist. I can't print that out. That's out of the index range. All right. Next up, let's do int, like, int a equals 10. Sure. Int b equals 0. All right. And then we want int result equals a divided by b. And so what this is going to do, this causes a divide by, let's do it as the error would show up, by 0 exception. That's what that does. All right, that's good for the try. Let's do the catch. So catch will be not that exactly. Oops. Hey, stop it. We're going to do, this is where we're going to name it, right? So this is going to say index out of range exception. And we're going to say EX. We'll get to that in a second. All right. That's the first catch. And then just console writeLine. And we're just gonna, we don't need it to do that. We're gonna say index out of range error plus ex dot message. And you'll see why that is what we're doing in a second. We're gonna do another catch. And this one will be our divide by 0 exception. So catch divide by 0 exception, and then this one we're going to use EX. Sorry, we used it on the other one. I don't know why I said this one. Let's do a console.writeLine on this one, and we'll do division by 0 error, right? And then we're going to do, again, plus x.message. I don't like them touching. Okay. That catch is good. Let's do a kind of this is called the exception X. So this is basically just like a all around, like something was put in, but we don't have an error message for it. So this is kind of a general message. We'll do a console write line and then just like an error occurred, right? Plus X dot message. Okay. And we'll have finally in here. Some of you guys might, I don't know if we went over, we did try catch, but I don't know if we did a finally. We might have done a finally. We'll do a finally, and we'll do, let's see, console.writeLine, and, oops. No, I didn't mean to do that. Write line, and we're just going to do something like finally block executed. Just basically just saying we're at the end. We're done, right? This is more for our benefit than anybody else's. All right. So that looks pretty good. We've got no errors, no issues found. Let's hit Control S and save. Let's run this bad boy. All right. Index out of range error. Index was out of the bounds of the array. So what does that mean, right? Now, this actually should have popped up an error because we did divide by 0. A divided by B. That's actually being really silly that it's not popping up. I'm trying to think. This should absolutely cause a issue. And it's not. That's interesting. Index out of range. Yes. I want to try, let me try getting rid of this for a second. Oh, I didn't mean to comment out the code that's already there. Let's just see if it's just like skipping. Okay. So it's just, yeah. Oh, right. Duh. Of course. It's just like, hey, we already got one error. We don't even need to display the second error, right? It's like, it's catching. It's like, oh, out of range. And then it's just like, it goes from this catch, doesn't even go to these catches. It just goes down here, and it's like, hey, executed, done, program's done. We're not doing that. And then when I comment this one out, we do 10 divided by 0. This one's like, index isn't out of range because we commented this out. And then, but it sees this one, catches it, right? And drops down there. Super easy. Now, if we were to put like search number D, I don't know if it'll even like let me do that. No. Maybe I can do D. No. See, it doesn't even like that I do this. It knows it's a string, but it's like, you can't do that, right? But if I were to like, let's say we again go back to like the user input. If I were to try to input a string into like a user input that's searching the array, it would be like, hey, buddy, it'll go right here. Error occurred. Don't do that. That's not even that it's out of range. It's just that it doesn't even exist. It knows 5 is out of range, right? Super easy. It's pretty easy. So let's kind of step through the code a little bit. Let me grab a little sipski of water. So we intentionally created code that was going to throw an exception inside of our try block. It's trying these things. When try finishes, it transfers to the appropriate catch block. So we have our blocks with specific exceptions designed to handle basically any particular type of exception. You could go really deep and really crazy, and if you build a very in-depth program, eventually you will have to do that, right? Then we move on to the finally block. That's just, again, it's executed regardless whether the exception was thrown out or not. It's typically for cleanup code, like closing a file or a database connection, something like that, right? And then let's go over the index out of range and divide by 0. So this one is thrown when attempting to access the element outside the bounds of array, right? We're trying to access element 5. We have elements 1, 2, and 3 in space 0, 1, and 2. And then the divide by 0 exception It's literally just a result of dividing by 0. Very straightforward, very simple. All right, these are just, it's just saying, hey, this is an exception method. It would be nice to be able to speak. All right, that's pretty straightforward. I think we've covered everything. Yeah. All right, guys. That's actually a shorter video than I was expecting it to be. Oh, it's 15 minutes. If you guys enjoyed this, like, share, subscribe. The Syntax Sorcerer will be teaching you more magical, mystical stuff in the world of C# and programming in general in the future. Thank you guys very much. Have a wonderful day.